Okay. Uh, Hello, all. Thank you for joining the Human Libraries of Procurement podcast. We call it Human Libraries of Procurement for three basic elements. The first, human connect, the libraries part, which shows the wisdom and knowledge, and procurement, because we talk about procurement. One such Human Libraries of Procurement is Ayan Ganguly. Ayan, thank you for doing this. How are you doing today?
It's a pleasure. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. So, Ayan, if you would like to start with your career, brief introduction, and then we go from there.
Um, well, to look at my procurement and supply chain career, it was never planned. I believe, like most of us who get into procurement, we come from a generation where we don't plan on getting into this. So I started my career in 2009 as an accountant. Uh, the journey started as an accountant, and then somewhere down the line, I got hijacked into supply chain. It was a very brief stint, but I enjoyed doing it because you are kind of ending up solving real life messy problems that is all around, and that was quite attractive to me to do something every day because not every day is the same when you're doing that, and that's where it all started. That was in South Africa, and that is how it kept going, and it has been a journey for like not a lot. It's been like my 12 years going in procurement and supply chain. And that is how it all started because it was very interesting solving those messy problems into real life situations. And then over the time, I dived deeper into procurement, into sourcing, into planning, and trying to understand the intricacies of the industry. And so that is how it has been growing because it was all about creating value, which you could see the changes that was happening. Um, and as I generally like to put it, like when you're running a supply chain, you are basically conducting an orchestra because when everything is flowing, it's magic that you're creating, but you always have it in your mind that one string can break somewhere, and that keeps you on the hook because you never know where and when that string breaks. But as long as it doesn't break, you are creating magic. So that's what keeps me going into this profession, because at the end of the day, with supply chain or procurement, it's basically strategy meeting execution. Not a lot of domain allows you to combine both. So
Right.
that was how I ended up in this
Right.
domain.
Yes, we all have our stories. Um, I'll expand on that point that you said. Supply chain, your supply chain is only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
how
Yeah,
people
sometimes
say
when I see the supply chain flowing, I feel like it's like you're playing or you're a
magic.
conductor of that orchestra. You know something
Right.
is might go wrong anytime, but you don't know when. Until then, enjoy the moment.
Right. I think that's the anxiety of a supply chain professional, right? When you see everything is smooth, you think that there is something that
Something
is
is
coming.
brewing somewhere. If
Right.
everything correct, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that problem solving. I think that's a major one. A lot of things that we do is actually problem solving, and I think that is what excites us in the first place. And the other thing that I heard there was the accountant who became into procurement. So accountant is finance, money, but we don't share the best of relation, let's say, with
Questions, but
finance. How do you see that?
well, look, with coming from a finance background, it does give me a wider spectrum because I understand the figures, gives me a better understanding, and gives me I would say a leverage when I have to negotiate with the internal stakeholders
Right.
to motivate them into getting what we need. Because even if procurement does give out the PO, it still needs a finance approval, or the finance no is the final no. So coming from a accounting sense, it just kind of gave me a bit of wisdom of what could be the counter questions and how I could bat around those questions to get my point across. So that helps me and increases my spectrum of understanding how the other department might be thinking and what could be thrown at our way. So it just widens up my horizon a bit.
Right. I like that again. But before we move on, I just wanted to give a disclaimer part that we are here on our personal capacities. So Ayan would be talking a lot about his previous experience, and it is only natural that some company's name might come out. But we are representing no other company. We are on our own personal capacity here. So that's a disclaimer that I wanted to put out. Now, talking about your career, so you landed in supply chain. Uh, what all things have you done in supply chain?
Well, over the years, I have worked in almost all the major areas of supply chain. I started as a production planner. There was supply and demand planning that I had to do. Moved into global sourcing, strategic procurement, third-party logistics management. Worked in ERP environments, operational efficiencies, and also digital transformation. So I had worked with a lot of cross-functional teams where I've been involved in projects where it's directly, supply chain is directly linked to your commercial KPIs. A lot of inter-departments, alignments, and cross-functional exposures. And each part actually taught me to look at what value all of those processes brought into the business chain and how it affected the bottom line and the customer experience. So it has been a wide spectrum of departments or roles or functions that I have been blessed to work with.
Right.
That opened up my understanding of a holistic approach towards supply chain and business in general.
Any particular area that you like more, or which one is your favorite one?
I would say, well, all of them are quite challenging and comes with its own pros and cons, like
Right.
every single of it, because everyone. But if I have to choose one, I would say, I would not want to be in procurement because it's too much of talking and persuasion. I would rather run the planning side of supply chain. 3PLs, I find it very dynamic from my point of view, and production planning keeps me very much on my toes. So yeah.
Okay. So we talk about logistics, let's say. So what kind of projects have you been involved for logistics?
On the logistics side, we did quite a few in Southern Africa where we changed our routings and introduced third-party logistics, which had a direct impact on our OTIFs, and it had a direct impact on our OTIFs and the revenue. So that was something we did in South Africa, besides doing third-party and fourth-party logistics when I was based in East Africa. And especially with the Red Sea thing, that was quite a bit of challenge where all the cargoes had to be rerouted. So that was the two challenging logistic projects I was involved in. Yeah. I have actually worked in one industry over the last just over a decade. It was in packaging. So if I look at the packaging side of things, packaging at the end of the day is just a commodity. It's a box. But when you start really looking at it take a deep dive into it, you would start to see that packaging actually involves the branding, the sustainability, the product safety, supply chain efficiency, and the customer service. So what happens when you're working with your B2B and your FMCGs is you are in a B2B segment, but then again you are directly affecting your B2C for your stakeholders. So the challenges does come from all the interaction of technology, of people, of procurement and logistical challenges. So you need to make sure your end user gets, okay, let me put it an example. I need to make sure I have the Kellogg's boxes planned so that someone gets Kellogg's for his breakfast in the morning.
Right.
It's commodity. I'm making a box and if I look at it, I'm just making a box, but that box gets filled with the B2C product, which fulfills someone's needs. So you're basically touching a B2C while operating a B2B supply chain. So I find it very fulfilling to an extent. And the intersections of the different dynamics, which we don't know. I don't know engineering, but I need to have an idea of what happened so I can tell my other stakeholders, this is what is stopping me from getting you what you want. So it's a lot of diversity that you have to deal with every day, and the people dynamics to top it all. You never know what mood someone wake up this morning, and you have to get some work done out of them. So it's always a challenge, but a fulfilling one.
Right. Yep. I have a comment from Karima. She says, love that he admitted that procurement is not supply chain. So that's a comment there. If anyone has any question, please put it out on the chat. I'll be very happy to read it out, and then Ayan can answer those questions. So Ayan, just a little bit more on that production planning stage. Now, I know you have worked as a planner. How difficult is it to work as a planner? Because from a procurement point of view, the planner's work and procurement, we don't match that much.
Mhm.
There's always a gap that is there. But from a planner's point of view, what difficulties or what challenges do you see?
Look, it's a thankless job, and you just have to put on a thicker skin to make life easier for you. You can do 100 right things in a day, but you miss out one, or everybody's blaming you for that one thing. So that's part of the job. It's thankless. You don't expect anything in return, which aligns with life. You don't expect anything. You come every morning, you do your job, you go home. If it's good, you pat your own back. No one is coming to pat your back. If it's bad, go have your beer and go to bed.
Right.
That's that.
I think, the thankless part of it is for everything that is in
Everything in
supply
supply chain, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And
What makes it a bit difficult for planning is it's a bridge between the factory and the sales or the
Right.
end user, so to say.
Right.
And there is certain information you just have to keep to yourself, which happens again in every supply chain. You can't reveal all the information. But the internal stakeholders, and you can't reveal this because that's like a panic button you're pressing. So you just need to absorb everything and just look like nothing happened. Put your poker face on and carry on. That's one of the challenging things, because again, it's a lot of factors which are not under our control. I want to give you what you want, but it's not, everything is not under my control. There is other stakeholders, other factors, other technology, other breakdowns, people involved in the whole chain. And how do you get around everyone to make sure you move something from point A to point B? That applies to everything in supply chain and procurement, all of us working in supply chain. And I think that's what tickles all of us. How do we go through all these obstacle courses to make sure this thing moves from point A to point B? That's what we are all getting up and chasing every day.
Right. Again, that problem solving comes back.
Yes.
That is what gets going. I will read out some comments here. So Karima says, that's the word, thankless. That's the word she picked up. And Alex says, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So that's a great thought there. What is the interesting question is from Karima, and that is that we had to ask to an accountant as well. That she wants you to tell something on the part that procurement or supply chain is part of finance. What are your thoughts? That should supply chain be part of finance, or should it be individual or some other department?
Finance thinks supply chain and procurement is part of them, but we are not.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
we are not. They want to be that when they need us, they want to be that good older brother, the elder brother, the
Right.
big brother, to procurement to guide us. But we do a lot of we look at a lot of other aspects. We try to understand the problem. We try to find what is the right solution to the problem, and not just look at cutting cost. Where we do fall out is with the weak narrative on our part, where we are trademarked as cutting cost and not a driver for revenue.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you're looking at supplier relationship, for example, and your quality is directly gets better because you can maintain a good supplier relationship, you can work with the lesser holding cost of SKUs. So these are something I don't think finance thinks. They like to take the credit of it, but we are the people who does the real work. That's how I see it. So
Right.
finance is on its own. We move things. We run the business. They can report however they want to. That is my take on it.
Right. What I think is finance is all those hard numbers and hard processes, and procurement or supply chain is more about soft skills.
We are the
Uh,
people
you-
behind those numbers.
right. And I have a comment here from Karima. She says, Ayan, be honest. What was your thought when you were in finance? Must be different, but we all evolve. That's okay. The other thing that I have from Alex is we use three forecasts: optimist, pessimist, and what actually happens. And then he has said he has also done planning. So Alex has also done planning. I think I am the only one who has never done planning, not in my life, not in any other life also. So, I'm bad with planning. But I just wanted to explore on the category of packaging a little more. So you've done sourcing for packaging. What are the unique features about packaging as a category? What are the things that you focus on?
Packaging, there would be a lot of consumables. The main product is paper that you are
Mhm.
looking at. So you are dealing with a lot of vendors from Europe, India, China for your main raw material, because that is 80% of your raw materials. Then you look at your consumables. So sourcing becomes a very important part of packaging, because and engineering part sourcing, because you're dealing with your machines, you're dealing with your consumables, you're dealing with a lot of industry in industry specific stuffs, but also besides the normal IT procurement that you're looking at, your softwares and your data protection and all of those kits that you're looking at. So the majority of it is your sourcing would play a very major role. And because it's a very volume oriented industry, so the pricing is a very key factor. Because the end user prices are very end user is very price sensitive. So you do have to come up with the right SKU, with the right quality, with the right stock holding, because all of that has a cascading effect going downstream into the supply chain. So pricing is playing a bit. I would use pricing rather than costing, because cost, we don't say we are a cost cutting department. Uh,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
so it has to be looked at with your sustainability, your waste, your reverse logistics plays a very important part in
Right.
packaging. Um, so also the industry is a very capital intensive and power consuming. So you have to look at your powers of your source of power. Um, we were using something in East Africa, which was biodegradable fuel in East Africa to run our whole factory. Looking at solar energies, things like that. When you're buying your paper, you have to look at certain specifications from your paper supplier. If the paper is ESG as well, if it comes from, is it recycled paper, or if it is a virgin kraftliner paper, things like that are being looked at and then also with the recycling of the paper, how your waste is getting recycled. So you look at all those factors while creating your product.
Right. I'll take a comment from Karima, and then we'll go to Clyde's question. Karima says, I covered packaging in lubricants, the ugliest packaging. We always had issues with quality. The lids, those were the real challenges. That's from Karima. Clyde says, how have you resolved conflict objective between finance and procurement? So again, finance and procurement, if they fight, how do you resolve it?
Yeah, we can't put on the boxing gloves, unfortunately. So we have to look. So the best way, what I believe, is to deal with finance is to have your facts straight, have your data ready, and your forecast ready, and your decision making is based on logic and calculations. That is, I believe, is the best way to speak to finance. Storytelling sometimes don't work with them, from my personal experience. It just goes over the top of the head. So with dealing with finance, I would have my facts straight. I'd have my ducks in a row. I would know what I'm talking and let the numbers talk. And why a certain decision is being motivated for is completely based on the bottom line effect. That is how I would like to take up something with finance and not beat around the bush. From my experience, it doesn't really work with the finance people. They don't get it.
Right. Yes, your logic and your hard numbers, right? How do you calculate things? Yes. Any other learning experience or anything that you want to share which shaped up your understanding about supply chain or work life in general?
Besides the normal thing, what really gave me a very big insight into the working of a business or a chain was digital transformations for supply chain, which I was lucky to be part of in Nigeria and in Saudi Arabia. So what I got to understand from that was there was technical shifts. It was not just technical shifts. You're looking at organizational shift. You are working with multiple departments, understanding how the process flow is going, and you're basically looking at re-engineering the business processes. You standardizing the processes, cleaning the master data file, which is always a problem child. Training of manpower, change management, and that gives you a very holistic approach, understanding of what is happening. And at the end of the day, you understand that technology is needed to run a business in the modern day and going forward. But supply chain transformation is, I would say, 20% technology and 80% of people. And how do you get the people to do what they are supposed to do? Because technology is not the magic word. So it somewhere shaped up my complete understanding of a business process and how a different department is thinking, and what drives a department, because that's very important to understand. It's not just a KPI, but what drives a department to do what they are doing. What is their goal? What is their vision within the organization? So that kind of understanding really helped when I was working in technology transformations and ERP implementations.
I think the best point here is that even if technological transformation is all about tech, or digital transformation is all about tech, but it is also about the people, right? So, and at times it is more about the people rather than the digital part. So that is what we forget, and that is what is very interesting in that sense. Now, moving on to your experience, any success stories from your experience or any project experience that you would like to share?
If I look back, okay, the technological transformations was quite challenging to have everything implemented and make sure the business continuity carries on. So, well, it's not just mine, it was a teamwork and all the departments aligned, and the change management took place, and all the upstream and the downstream processes continued in its own while we were transitioning from a legacy software to a new software. So that was one and I would say that I do count on that because of the cultural differences that was there in the team as well, and we aligned and got it done. Nigeria was quite a tough experience because of the forex challenges. While we were looking at sourcing from overseas, uh, Africa is facing a big dollar shortages, and the forex has been a nightmare, especially when you're trying to source and the payments and the banks, all of that part. So we did set up a network of local suppliers, which was available where we could leverage them to cut out on our exposure, cut out on our imports. That actually helped us in creating a very agile supply chain in a very fast-paced Lagos economy that has been sustainable for the business, and it was effective in batting the forex issues that the country was facing then.
You have quite an experience in Africa. Tell us your experience as to where all you have worked in Africa and what were you doing there?
It started in South Africa. I started in a place that is around 200 kilometers, 2 hours drive from Johannesburg, called Rustenburg. That is where I started. That's where I started as a planner. And I spent a considerable time in South Africa. Then I was in Nigeria and Uganda. So basically, I covered the three sections of Africa, the South, East, and the West. Africa has got a diversity within the continent, and it's very pronounced. If you look at South Africa has got a robust infrastructure, and the systems are pretty well greased. Nigeria, on the other hand, has got a very fast-paced and a hustle mentality. If you see the streets of Lagos, Uganda is very entrepreneurial. It's a growing economy, and relationship building, your rapport on the ground keeps you agile in somewhere like a Uganda. But right across Africa, it's also the human connection that you're creating, the narrative, the storytelling, and also data that works through the continent of Africa. The style of work is very different, but the binding factor is, again, which works for any supply chain professional, is the relationship building that gets the job done. If I compare, if I look at Southern Africa, if I look at South Africa, if I look at somewhere like a Johannesburg, which has got a more systematized processes, the supply chain is more mature, the infrastructure is well developed. So you have a very well lubricated supply chain, which is very data driven, and the numbers speak, and you have your emails, you have your POs, and things go smooth. And if there is a red flag, it gets flashed. You are aware of it, so the supply chain is much more smoother. With somewhere like Nigeria, where it's all about the hustle, it's sudden changes and disruption. So you are always up for a surprise. You can have your forex scarcity. You can have your port strikes. You can have offloading issues at the port, and anything can happen, or a major breakdown, or your commodity or your cargo can get robbed somewhere. You have to have your insurances in place and things like that. With Uganda, again, you are looking at a more personal touch. It's a very growing population who are entrepreneurial. You're looking at mutual respect and your connection with the person to get your work done. You have to be on the ground to keep yourself, and you have to be agile to move things in somewhere like East Africa, where it's more about the personal connection that you have. It's not always, well, except for South Africa, it's not always a 20-page contract that would work. You have to work through your handshakes and your phone calls for the rest of Africa to get things moving.
A step further, we do a lot of negotiation in procurement and supply chain. problem solving and negotiation are two things that we do a lot. In terms of the cultural thing, for let's say we stay with Africa for now, is there anything that you should not be doing while negotiating, or is there a big no or something like that when you're negotiating, or is there there's different styles of what styles did you see in negotiation?
Culturally it changes, but it's not just about the price, it's about the trust. So what I experienced across Africa is you have to create that trust. There must be mutual respect behind that handshake. The paperwork will flow and will follow, but as long as we're looking at a win-win situation for both, things would go smoothly. So you would have to go to the price, but you can't directly attack the price. You have to make sure that you are looking at things from a point of creating a win-win situation, and must assure the other party that this is what we are in business for a long run. We are mutually supporting each other. So as long as you are able to create that kind of assurance and don't come across like I strictly mean business, which works again for some Asian countries where you would try to attack the price and bring it down. With Africa, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of storytelling, it's a lot of relation buildings, sitting over coffees and lunches to get to the right deal which works for both the parties. That is somewhere works right across Africa.
Right. I think the comment from Karima regarding this is what it summarizes very well. She says, "You made a great point, and connections or communication is a great skill to navigating our world." So I think the storytelling and the relationship building all comes from connection and
I think that's what we do. 60% of our day we communicate.
Right.
And we don't even know what we are communicating about, but we just speak.
Right. Yes. And there is a lot of body language that also comes in communication.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not always verbal. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And now that you are in Middle East, Riyadh, do you see any difference from the cultural point of view in supply chain or negotiations as compared to, let's say, Africa?
Well, with Saudi, it's scaling. The kingdom is scaling big time, and it's very ambitious. It's investing heavily currently in its infrastructure and its manufacturing sectors and logistics under the Vision 2020. There is big transformations going on. It's a country of aspirations, and it's visible. So you have to look at the broader national goals. When you're sitting down, it's you have to be very honest about what you can and what you cannot. But then again, where it ties between the two countries, between Africa and Saudi Arabia, is the quick changes that can happen, and the importance of not the quick changes, I would say the pace of change that happens, and also the relationship building. That I think is the binding string right across a lot of continents, cultures, everything. You have to build that relationship where you can pick up the phone and call this person, and he will answer at midnight and make a plan for you. Sending POs won't do that for you. So as supply chain professional, we have to build those relationships where I know who I can call at 2 o'clock. Where I know who my 2 o'clock friends are. Who would make an effort to help me.
Right. Now, the reason that I explored this topic so much, different countries, different continents, is because it is very important for procurement or supply chain to work cross country, cross team. We work with a lot of people. Diversity is one of the key for us. What are your views on cross-country collaborations or cross-team collaborations in supply chain?
supply chain, unlike finance, I would like to rub that in. Unlike finance, supply chain is no more it's not a back office function. We are right in the front. We are interconnected. We are customer facing. We are global. We are sourcing from around the globe. You're speaking to people, sending out emails, getting on Zoom with suppliers all over the world, trying to get the right raw material, lack of a better word for the business. The biggest challenges that we do have, or that we need to overcome, or we overcome it every day, is aligning with the different mindsets of the people, of the cultures, the time zones, and also I would say the theory of time. That is something I have picked up in the countries that have stayed. The theory of time is very different. In South Africa, they use a word called now. And now is a very dodgy word.
Right.
It can be right now or it can be never.
Right.
So that's what I mean by the theory of time. It's every country has a different meaning of hour, or I will be there soon. And it is on the way. All the countries have got a different definition and the theory of time and managing the expectations. But then again, it is the reward that comes through all these collaborations and the innovation that we are able to get out because of this. The clear communications and the scales that we can set up on the supply chain. Once we can overcome and understand the cultural difference and work around the problem, sometimes we can't attack the problem. It's not a feasible option. So we have to work around that problem to make sure the thing still gets done. That's been the end motto for any supply chain professional. So it's shared goals, mutual respect, win-win for both, and the relationship building works right across the board.
Right. I think that relativity of time is very important. 5 minutes for me, or the way we say 5 minutes is a lot different from actual 5 minutes. Okay. We talked about digital transformations and digital transformation implementations. The next step that we are witnessing is AI. What are your views on AI, and how do you see AI changing supply chain?
AI is the next big thing, artificial intelligence. But as I was telling someone the other day, like, okay, fine, we can get artificial intelligence, but can we get common sense first? Common intelligence first. Because that's, I think that's a pain point for any supply chain profession. It's like, isn't that common sense? It that purpose is like, so, but AI is the game changer. It's the next big thing. Big investments coming into AI slowly. But still, I think we are on the surface. There is a lot to AI. We are still scratching the surface. We could be using AI for demand forecasting, spend analytics, supplier mapping, even getting contract insights, which we can miss out as supply chain professionals or procurement professionals, because we are not legal. So we can end up missing that, where we can be utilizing AI. But then again, AI would be amplifying what we have. It won't get the job done for us. What will get the job done for us is have clean data, clear your master file, have clean data, have standardized processes. So then it can repeat the standardized processes, and then we as humans or professionals can not kill our time doing the standardized processes or a repeat job, and where we could utilize AI. AI will not replace humans. I believe it cannot. I'm not a scientific expert, but it would be amplifying our job, and it would make life easier for us, because we would be moving from a reactive system, which supply chain in most of the time is, into a more predictive supply chain that makes it very easier for us, where we can actually focus on bigger things to do, think strategically, rather than getting drowned in making POs or tracing where my cargo is.
That brings me to the next question, actually. So supply chain or procurement, in that matter. You talked about cutting POs and releasing POs. We've come a long way from where we started off. We started off as a very transactional based kind of thing. We are now a little more strategic than what we used to be, but there is a long way to go still. What do you think we can do so that supply chain or procurement can be more strategic in nature?
Uh, we as a department, I think most of us, all of us would agree that we have an image problem. Like Karima did send out a question if we are part of finance or not. We are an independent department doing our job, but somewhere down the line there is an image problem, and we truly need to come out of that. We are not a department which would say no or which would want to cut cost, but we have to talk business. We have to say how we are aligned to the business vision, how we are helping in achieving the business goals, and how we are related to the revenue, to resilience and the growth of the business, what value we are adding to the business by reducing lead time, which the credit goes to sales again. But we are doing better sales by reducing lead time. We don't get the credit. Vendor management, ensuring good quality of raw materials, which again ensures that your finished product is of good quality. The credit goes elsewhere. It doesn't come to us. So our narrative is not there because we are so busy firefighting every day.
Right.
We think someone will pat our back or someone will tell. History will judge us differently, but that's not how the real world works. So we need to come up with our KPIs. We need to be more visible with what we are doing, have our dashboards and storytelling. We need to be braggers of what we have done. Even the small wins, we need to clap for it, because there are other functions which do get the credit, but we end up doing all the work. We are the pulse, but someone else is feeling the pulse and saying what things are, when we have a first-hand understanding of what's going on, which way things are moving and which way it might go, and where is the next red flag coming, because we are on the ground and we are live.
And I have a comment from Alex. He says, not a function. So he's talking about procurement and supply chain, to be shy. So you have to be not shy in procurement and supply chain. And then I have a follow-up comment from Karima. She says, well, it is easy to come in, but get out back, the equipment is something. So custom in terms of reverse logistics is a problem.
I don't have any working experience on that yet in Saudi Arabia.
Right. I think those are valid points. Thank you, Karima. Now, even further from Alex's point that we cannot be shy in this profession, what can we do? What can supply chain and procurement guys do to improve our visibility? We are still not that visible as we want to be. So what would you say?
We are not visible because we have to run a business. When we would sit 2 hours I would recall my days as a production planner. I would sit in a 2 hours meeting, and after that, everyone else can go back home, but I have to go back and plan.
Right.
And I believe most of the planners have done that, or even with the purchase officer. Would sit on a very high and mighty meeting and discussing all the strategies, but this poor chap has to go back and finish his work. And while he's sitting in the meeting and others are talking high and mighty and lofty, this chap is thinking, okay, I've got this and this and this to do. So we are busy firefighting. That's our role. But then again, we need to, time management is very important, and we need to find that time where we brag. That's what I believe. We need to brag for ourselves. If we did a small achievement, we have to talk about it. We have to tell our stories. We have to make it visible. We have to tell people, speak to people in the language they understand. If it's KPIs, if it's dashboards, That's where we should start looking at and making and putting it up, sticking it with a sticky note on your forehead if you have done a good job, because no one else is
Right.
going to do that. Bottom line is finances, yeah, but who is driving your bottom line? Who is
Right.
making sure your logistical costs are lower? So we have to ask the tough questions and look eye to eye and say, you know what, we did it, but you can have the credit. We have to be storytellers of our own success and lift each other up, because it's still not a recognized independent function yet, and in a lot of organizations. Supply chain is still trying to get out. Procurement is still, finance would still drag it and say it's my child. I have
Right.
seen it with procurement. So we have to align with the business goals and talk the language of the business.
Right. And I think these platforms like Alchemy on LinkedIn, these also help. We are part of a community now,
In
and that
creating the
also
community.
increases visibilities. This podcast, I hope, this also increases that visibility. Uh, One question from Karima. She says, Ayan, my final question: what do you most love about your job? What would you like to do next? And do you think supply chain management and procurement managers are the future CEOs of organization due to the nature of their job and the skills we develop? So I'll break it down. We'll start with, what do you like most about your job?
Um, what I really liked, like I said about the orchestra, playing an orchestra, you being a conductor in an orchestra, no 2 days are the same. You can have a surprise spring up from anywhere. It keeps you on your toes. When it's quiet, you know there is a bigger storm brewing somewhere you're not aware of. So the challenges, the intricacies, because we in supply chain are dealing with moving things, and it's full of surprises. We don't have you walk into your day and you don't know what's waiting for you. I believe in most of the other functions, you know how your day might look. For supply chain professionals, we don't know. You can have a fantastic day, you turn around and whoops, you are working at 12 in the night. That's the most interesting part.
Right. And what would you like to do next?
Uh, what I like to do next? Well, I would be in supply chain. I love what I do. As much as I have gone gray in at a very early age, mm, I love what I do, and I would like to look at more geographical centers, understanding the culture, but also in supply chain, because that's the best way to learn a culture, because you are doing business with people, you're talking money. And when you're talking money, you actually know what the other person is made up of, and what you are made up of, because you're trying to crack a deal. So I would be in supply chain. I don't really know. I'll let the wind take me. Let's see.
Right. And do you think that supply chain management or procurement managers are the future CEOs? So,
Well, they are the current CEOs. Apple showed the way. So we are there. It's just that we have to have our storytelling and our narrative aligned, because we are already there. We have been recognized, and I'm pretty junior to in the industry, but what I've observed since post COVID, we have been started to be taken seriously, because before that, no one knew what it is. Like Supratim, you would agree with me, if you say supply chain, people will think you are in trucking in India. So so people have started taking us seriously, because they have understood for everything that is moving in this world, there is a supply chain guy who is making sure it moves and it reaches our doorstep. So, and businesses have started taking us seriously. They listen to us more, I believe. Mm, And because we have proved that we know what is going on. We are just not talking numbers. We are just not talking technical, we are telling you what's happening on the ground. And that's the benefit of being a supply chain guy, because we come from different professions. You don't have to be a doctor or a chartered accountant. You can be anything and you can still work in supply chain, and you are on the ground and you know the ground realities. So you bring, every one of us comes from a different academic background, which increases the strength of our diaspora, because everybody is bringing something different. We all read different books and we all bringing our wisdom together. That's how I see it. So we as a community, we are already there. It's just that just take those files off our deck so that people can see our face. That's the problem.
Right.
The CEO is not,
Yes.
the directors or the chairman can't see our face because we are behind a pile of workload.
Right. And Harold says, good questions, Karima, for those set of questions that she said. If anyone has any question, please put them on chat. We are just finishing off. I'll ask one more question. So any fresher or anybody who is just starting their career, if they're listening to this broadcast, what would you say, procurement or supply chain as a career?
There was an old saying in India, that's an old saying, it's a vile saying. If someone don't know what to do, they study law. And somewhere down the line, it does apply to us as well. We are figuring out and we end up in supply chain. And with anyone listening to wanting to get into supply chain, I would say jump in. Jump into it, because it is one of the most exciting, diverse, and future-proof professions or functions, that is, our careers that is out there. You're working with data, you're working with strategies, you are working with people. No 2 day is the same, and you would never get bored. You would be on your toes. There is ample growth, and you just need to be curious, ask the questions, volunteer into projects. You don't have to worry if you don't know anything, or you don't have all the answers. Not know anything, but if you don't have all the answers, because we all figuring out in supply chain. We all figure out, we don't know, we have a plan, but we don't have a plan. We end up figuring out. So, and as a young profession, when you look around and you see anything, or you buy anything, or you touch anything, there is a supply chain profession who made sure you got to do all of this with that thing. So why not be part of it, because we are the ones who move things in this world. So why not?
Right, why not? Yes. So this session is recorded, and it would be on Alchemy and also on YouTube. So that's for the information. And I have a comment from Karima. She says, fantastic. Thanks, Ayan, for your time and excellent discussion. So thank you
so
Ayan.
much. Thank you so much.
Before we end, is there anything that you would like to add? Or
I really like this thing that you're doing, Supratim. It's amazing, bringing all the supply chain professionals or procurement professionals together into this platform and creating an ecosystem for us. It is the need of the hour. We need to come under an umbrella, I believe. And thank you for doing this good work. Keep it up.
Thank you so much for your time, and it is always a pleasure to discuss with you. Always sharing knowledge, and you've shared a lot of knowledge. I hope it helps the community to grow in that sense. So thank you again, Ayan, for your time and discussion. Thank you all who joined. Have a nice day then.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Yeah, bye-bye.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel.